Sweet. What's going on, everybody? Super excited to have everybody here. We got I think it's the first time we've done a room like this, and so I'll get into it a little bit. But for everybody just who just popped in, may not know who we are Control Camp. We're a community built for independent artists who want to get their music in TV and film, and that includes commercials, ads, games, trailers for major brands like ABC, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all of the above. If it's a visual spot where there's a moving picture, your music can go on it. So we're talking about all of those opportunities that are available to us. And I am one of your co-hosts, Daraj. I'm an indie hip hop artist based out of Orlando, Florida. Joining me is my co-host, Eric Campbell, songwriter, composer. And we have had success in this space. We love it. We advocate for it. And that's why we wanted to build Control Camp and just have support for any artists or composers who are just wanting to know what it takes to succeed in this space. And we do this room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. We were a little late because Clubhouse was tripping today, but they're doing their best. But we're here now, and the format of this room, we always try to bring in different music supervisors, licensing agents and publishers, composers, just industry gatekeepers and people who have had, major success in this space to help just be a resource for you all. And so we like to say we're kind of a peer-led group. We don't claim to have all the answers, but the answers that we do have, we like to learn from amongst one another. So we bring in a lot of different voices to help shed light on this. In addition, we have a website called controlcamp.com where you find a lot of resources and even more resources that we'll be developing in the coming months. So if you swing over to controlcamp.com, our Sync 101 page, we have PDF resources on there. We also set up our Patreon where you can subscribe and get all of the past rooms that we've done if you've missed any of the talks we've had. And we've had some really, really good ones. We've interviewed, supervisors. One of the supervisors who comes very frequently, Jessica Gramuglia, she's the supervisor for Condé Nast and responsible for brands like GQ, Vogue, Pitchfork, and in the name of just a few. And we had a great talk with her. We have a talk about how to actually get your music placed and get major placements, especially in this year. I feel like it's very, very favorable for the artist, especially the independent artist who wants to create a new stream of revenue and, an outlet for their music. So all of that, all of those resources, all of the gems that we drop on these rooms are available for you on controlcamp.com on our Patreon. So slide over there. And yeah, so and before we even get into the room, just a heads up, stick with us for the remainder of the month because it is Women's History Month. So we have some really, really cool rooms coming up. I think next week we're locking in the panels. Some of the ladies from CBS will be with us, just talking about sync licensing from their perspectives as some of the gatekeepers in that space. And then also on the 24th, we're doing a women's composer spotlight and panel for some of the amazingly talented ladies and producers who are in our Control Camp room, who come all the time. And so, we want to celebrate and highlight the ladies that we have. And so, and also, if there are any, ladies here currently, and you are a producer and composer, feel free to go over to controlcamp.com. There's a submit music button, and you also can be in consideration for us to highlight you for the 24th. So we're doing that. And then also we have Steph Fink up here, and she'll be doing a very special music box panel at the end of the month. I don't know, Steph, if you wanted to share a little bit about that.
Oh, ladies, information. I don't know yet. I'm going to make it up as I go. I'm pulling in some of my favorite executives and creators, some of which we've had before that didn't get enough time. Like I'm going to bring Jizzle and Shalea back, but I'm also going to bring Rachel Reitman and a bunch of different people. I've actually tasked each woman I tag with finding me one more woman that we don't know yet. But the goal is to find a handful of women that we haven't met yet, and a handful of supervisors from different things, and also executives from different walks of life. Because as Eric and I have been discussing offline lately, we talk a lot about the traditional paths to getting your music synced, but there are a lot of not traditional paths, which are a little bit more difficult, but tend to be a little bit more rewarding. So I'm going to try to pull in some of those people as well as our usual suspects like Jess and Jaden to have some of those discussions.
Love that. And yeah, and all these ladies are extremely, extremely talented in their field and accomplished. So you definitely want to come back. We're closing it out strong. So that's a few of the things that we have coming up for Women's History Month. So stay connected with the camp. If you're not following us, go ahead and hit up my bio or Eric's bio. And the very first club on the left is ours, Control Camp. So go ahead and give us a follow. And just to transition on today's topic, this is the first time we've done, I think it's the first time we've done a Wednesday room like this, where it's a ask us anything, kind of free for all. So we'll be bringing people up and you get to ask whatever it is, whatever question you have about sync licensing, composing for sync, how to create, a sustainable career, or just anything that you just have regarding the topic at hand, which is creating music for TV and film and ads. So yeah, Eric, let's kick us off, man. And if I miss anything, let me know.
No, we're good to go. This is awesome. I'm actually excited about this because we normally will have questions at the very end, and it's sad because sometimes we have all these great speakers that come each week, but then we may only have time for like 15 minutes of questions or 30 minutes of questions. And so we thought it'd be cool if we set aside the whole room for Q&A. So the hands raising is turned on. So feel free if anyone wants to come up and has a question. Like I said, it can be about music in sync or whatever's on your mind. We're going to be a little loose. If things get too hairy, we'll dial it back in, or if we start running out of time, we'll dial it back in. But we do this so rarely that we want to kind of really open it up. By the way, we also have Digital on the stage. Want to say what's going on, Digital? Haven't chatted with you in a minute. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's a great time in history to be an independent artist. It's good to see all you guys. Psychosis was happening. Daraj, what's up? Steph.
Come on, man.
You're not allowed to come on here anymore with the cool sound that sounds. You can't sound better than everybody on stage.
Oh, my bad. Let me be quiet. Let me fall back.
Can you talk through your iPhone speaker? They'll even it out.
I don't even know how to do that anymore.
No, but really good to see you. Really good to have you here. So yeah, we're just Steph always says this, and so I think it's important that we share this. Like, we've gotten placements, we do things in sync, but sync is an ever evolving thing, and I learn something new every day. Daraj learns something new every day. Even with all her experience, I'm pretty sure Steph is learning stuff each day. It's like this thing is.
I know nothing. I'm learning every minute.
So we're not coming here like experts. We're just, if you have a question, we're going to share our experience. We're going to share what we know and answer. And if we don't know it, we'll point you to the direction where we think you can kind of find that information, or we'll connect with you in the DMs and try to find the answer together. So that's kind of, this.
Well, there is one thing. The only person on the stage who has all the answers is Mike Sowen. So if y'all don't know, Mike got all the answers. I'm just letting y'all know that.
Real talk.
No pressure. No pressure.
What's up, Mike?
What's up, Daraj? What's up, everybody?
What's up, Mike?
Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Yep. So it's just Q&A day. So we're going to kick it off with Marley. How are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. So yeah, just so the question I have is quite specific, but I'll try not to be too detailed. So really quickly, we don't do a lot of re-records, but recently we were asked to do a re-record um, of a basically it's a cover, 15 seconds, and it was asked of us by a sync agent. Now, as I said, we don't normally do these. We have recorded music. If you're happy to use that, that's normally the case. What is the deal with free records? In terms of price range, any guidance would be great. And also, what happens if the brand doesn't go ahead to use your version of the re-record? But obviously, you've done it for the sync agency, who's obviously used it to pitch. Obviously, there's like a demo fee, etc. But what if you've obviously done something very specific for them? What's the protocol in that situation?
Great question. Talking about covers and doing covers
Yeah.
brief. So, Steph or Mike, you want to jump on this?
Yeah, Steph. I mean, I can jump on it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So, first thing is try and own the master. If they're paying you a demo fee up front, might be some negotiating. I think it's worth maybe waiving that if you can own the master. Just to get into sort of the basics of covers, you can cover any song. It's called a compulsory license. Prince fought hard throughout his career to do away with them because he didn't want anybody to cover his music. But anyway,
Sorry, Mike, not to cut you, just to make it clear, the master was off the table. They wanted to own the master, just in case that affects your answer in any way.
No, yeah, that it does, and so I guess then the question is, since you don't have a piece of the pub or the master, what sort of percentage are they? I mean, you don't have to give me numbers, but hopefully you're getting a fair piece if they land that, or is it just a buyout? Like, are you doing a work for hire agreement?
It's a straight buyout.
I see.
It's for 15 seconds. I can give you the space the company is in. Large alcohol brand.
Right.
Yeah, and they want a specific genre of cover, which we have lots of artists that work in that genre. So that's why they've come to us.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess then if they're not willing to negotiate on keeping ownership of the master and all that, then just try and get as healthy a buyout as you can, because if they own that master, then they can go on and license it, in perpetuity in theory, as long as they own it. Now, clearly for the license to go through, the publisher has to clear that side. So if it's a pretty well-known track, hopefully the publisher is down for it, but that sync agency will own that track and be able to license it multiple times over and make, several tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, if not more, because they own it. So, I would just, knowing that even if it is 15 seconds, just say, look, the value of owning this is, pretty significant. So I would just try and negotiate as healthy a buyout fee as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's what we've tried to do. Just wondering if you had any, what's the sort of ranges in your space for re-records? As I said, this is not territory that we normally go down. So we don't necessarily look at sort of buyout fees for anything on the master side. We're a publisher.
To be honest, I don't really do buyouts. Like for the artist I'd like for them to own it. And I would ask that I rep it throughout the term of our deal. If I have an exclusive relationship with that artist, or the music that I'm asking them to make, if it's a cover situation, then I ask that I exclusively rep that master throughout the term of our arrangement. But thereafter, it's their track. I mean, they put in the studio time and the time, the studio, et cetera, to record it. And so I feel like they should own it and go on to, benefit from it in the future. So I don't know. I tend to lean a little more artist friendly, I guess. But that's so I can't really give you a number. I'm not really familiar with like buyout.
I can speak to this a little bit. Let me speak on behalf of all the bad guys.
Thanks,
which
Mike.
is not
Appreciate that.
Mike, your answer is amazing. I would second everything Mike said, and then I'll give you some of the bad guys, which is not me, but we do work for sometimes. We've done a couple of these. We get the asks very frequently, but as Mike said, unless they're really worth it, we don't do it. So one of the litmus tests that you can use that we use is to ask your client, is this clear with the client? I mean, I learned, oh my God, almost a decade ago when we were doing covers for Virgin, and they asked us to do like a Virgin that the client, it was the ad agency themselves that loved the idea, but the idea wasn't even clear with the client, let alone Madonna's publishing company. And they don't usually allow things to go for things like that. So it's really good. I always check, because we do get this asked a lot, to check if, someone has checked if the publishing will clear, or if they'll let it be used for the ad, or if there's any, restrictions with that. That's one thing that I check frequently. I say that we do none of them, and then we actually did 3 of them in the last couple months because they've come up more recently. What makes them worth it for us is if it's super short and doesn't take a lot of time. Like you said, it was 15 seconds. Ours was 8 seconds long. And like Mike said, we got to own the master. So it was worth it for us if it ever comes again. But I said, I don't know, will a cover of I Like It Like That for 8 seconds ever be used again? Maybe, possibly. But you have to look at the usage just like you do any other sync. So where is it being used? In this case for us, it was for a well-known fried chicken company in South Africa. And we only were exclusive to fried chicken for 6 months. So, if I got to keep that and use it again, those are the parameters. I can't tell you what we got paid for that one because I gave you too many details, but I can tell you our covers have reached, and this is, anywhere from ads, and we recently did one for a major television show for anywhere between $3,000 for something that's short, like 5 seconds to 8 seconds, all the way to 6 figures if it's for a television show, especially if you're getting into buyout territory. It's also very common these days for publishers, big publishers, to ask you to do covers of their catalog. Those can also, range in the 10,000 to 6-figure category. But I would say if you're doing like those 8 to 15 second buyouts, try to get at least $5,000 if it's a buyout. If it doesn't take you a lot of time, only you can say how long it takes you to do. But like Mike said, I wouldn't do them if they're not, paying you out, or you get to own it and make more money on it in the future.
Thanks, Steph. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think we were thinking along similar lines in terms of costings. Well, at least in terms of what they said the budgets were. I suppose for me, I think you raised an important point about checking whether or not it's been cleared with the client. But in this case, I think the client specifically is, the brand, making sure that it's cleared with the brand, because that's also important. Sometimes I know sync agents have great ideas, but it doesn't always land with the brand. So it could be something that they're trying to place with a brand and waste everybody's time.
That happens a tremendous amount with re-records,
Yeah.
so be careful. And then the other thing that you can consider too is when a company who owns it, like we did re-records of Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy and American Dad, Fox came to us and said, we'd like to own our own re-records. So those, if a direct client is asking you to do that and offering you to pay for those things, those are really great gigs to get, and they can fetch you decent amounts of money. It's about how much you know, how direct your client is. And also in general for all sync, but especially this, but definitely for all sync, sometimes you're willing to take it on the chin financially if you can have a future relationship that you're opening up and you can trust these people. But don't do it with people that you don't know. Use it for people you're really trying to get in with, and reserve it for those things.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the questions, Marley.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, Israel, we got you up next.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
What up, Israel?
Not too bad, man. I appreciate you guys for having this room. I've been in here once before, but I missed it last week, and I was really upset about it because I got there was so much value that I got out of that first room. So I am I'm the owner of vibes.com. So vibes.com is a brand new music licensing platform that is dedicated to telling Black stories, positive Black stories. And um, one thing I've been noticing with our company, we are not doing any subscription services right now, but I've been kind of leaning towards moving into the subscription based. Right now, we're just doing like single use licenses. But I keep asking this question, and no one has been able to really give me a good answer on these subscription services like I know MusicBed, Artlist.io. How are they paying their artists? Like, if you're paying a monthly subscription for 19.99 and you get unlimited downloads, how are they how are the artists themselves getting paid?
Man, I can jump in on that if you guys can hear me.
Yep, you're breaking up a little bit, Psychosis, but I think we hear you.
If not, I can wait. But it's what I was gonna say in short is it's a similar situation to like a Spotify or other DSPs where artists kind of get paid out of a collective pot. They normally have like a share set aside from the subscription service, and artists get paid based on how popular a particular song is on that platform or how many downloads that they might generate from their share of music that was generated slash licensed during that time period.
Okay, do you think that these companies would have to have like it wouldn't matter if the license was like if they had like an exclusive agreement with the company or a non-exclusive. It's simply just a popularity contest, pretty much.
Um, so for Artlist specifically, because I work with them, they offer a non-exclusive agreement, but it's pros and cons to it because most of it is the draw for a consumer. So the music um the music supervisor or director or just the YouTube subscriber who's looking for music to add to a project, to a film, to whatever, they they come to those services because those services offer royalty free music and they can clear it. And especially like with YouTube, they get like YouTube ID content is cleared, so they know they'll be whitelisted and it won't be taken down. That's what a lot of people go to them for. I think filmmakers and people working on bigger projects may go another route, but I see a lot of independent artists and independent creatives going that route of services like a Artlist. For the artist, though, um, it is sort of a popularity contest situation because they're kind of cut out on the back end out of royalties. But if they have a record or a song that's doing very well on that platform, the benefit is number one, the payout, which all of these services payout could be better, to be honest with you. But the other benefit is um, you truly might have a global reach because the fee to get the music is so cheap for the customer that you might end up in placements like literally all over the world, which then could, bring you a kickback to like your personal Spotify or Instagram. So that's a whole totally different business model than the traditional sync thing because you're dealing with more of like a micro sync situation where the payout in itself might be once a year instead of quarterly, but you're taking the payout in addition to the benefits of like the added exposure and added broadening of your fan base to then hopefully matriculate down to streams on your DSP service.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'll say too, and I want to go back and even familiarize myself a little bit more with their payment structure. But I know for me, like MusicBed was actually one of the first websites that I was able to transition to that helped me a lot, in sync. And actually, they're one of the few that I'm aware of that actually pay out monthly, like pay out monthly royalties. And they have a few different deal types. There's non-exclusive, there's exclusive, there's, and also you can opt in to be a part of their subscription base. It's not a mandatory thing, and that's separate from um, their single song licenses, that they offer on their website, and then also they still pitch to larger brands. Like we got a Call of Duty mobile spot through Music Vet, and that was separate from any of their subscriptions. So they kind of cater to some of the bigger brands a little differently, based on their usage types. But I would say it's for me, personally, when I stepped away from the label that I was with to go full time, or not full time, but go full time independent, um, the like we had really only a couple of songs on there, and one of them was doing really well, and I started to see that scale up every month. So it was, three figures at one time, and it hit up to like, four figures, and then just kept consistently being like four figures a month payouts that we were getting. And it was off of like a very small quantity. So coming from the independent side, not seeing anything close to that, off of, my music on, especially on a monthly basis, was really empowering, for me. And also too, it's like, I'm still retaining my rights, with the music. So that's another added benefit. I think that just transitioning could be something to consider.
Yeah, that's really helpful actually. Because I have been going back and forth. I know I only have a few artists right now because we're just starting. We've got about maybe 11 composers and like 3 artists on the platform. But I was thinking as we get bigger, maybe move into a subscription service. But then I'm thinking, well, if I move to a subscription based service, am I going to have to tell all these guys that, hey, we can no longer do, because I'm giving 50% of the revenue to the artist right now, and am I going to say now you're going to be making pennies or what? You know what I mean? So
I
I
need
don't want to just.
Koichis. I need the pew, pew, pew. You just nailed it. This is a constant struggle with anybody who works on the administrative side, be it publishers or sync reps or any kind of people who are doing music houses, music licensors. Everyone asks the question of like what you just asked. And basically, it all comes down to what kind of talent do you want to attract, right? So if you really want the best possible talent and you want them to stay with you because your deals are good, then work is going to be harder and your deal is going to be more fair. But administratively, the better your deal is, the harder it gets for the administrator. So it actually takes a tremendous amount of work to administrate something with super fair terms. And why these kind of bulk licensing or libraries exist where they're, we don't love the deals on them, like the Extreme Musics of the world or the Killer Tracks and stuff like that. I'm not saying that they don't have their place or their value, but a lot of reasons why you see people complaining or hear people in this case complaining about them is because they're doing straight up buyouts. And they're half their deals for a lot of these companies are even predatory, where they're buying out tracks for $250 completely, and all you get is your writer share, or buying out tracks for $1,000, all you get is your writer share. But they do that because to administrate that many songs in a catalog, then you're a publisher, and that's a whole different level of, kind of work and people who do that. So that's the balance, right? But the better your deal is, the harder it's going to be for you as an administrator. But the flip side is, the better your deal is, the better the people and talent you're going to attract. And I think that gives you a better win rate in your business.
Thank you. That helps a lot.
And just
I
one more
appreciate you.
thing, Israel, to keep in mind, and just from a business perspective, sometimes if you're going to, it's hard to measure what you're doing as you start your business, looking at other businesses and their business models without understanding how they're getting paid or making their money, because they might be doing splits or monthly payouts, but they might be sitting on a whole stack of venture capital, and making income or profit at the moment might not be feasible or important. So you can't, it's harder to measure and just say, okay, well, this is what they're doing, and then this is what I need to do, without knowing how more insight into how their business is structured.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much. All right. Next we got up Darius.
What's going on? How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
What's up, dude?
Good, good. Yeah, shout out to my guy Diraj. We met a couple years back at in Texas. I'm in South Carolina now, but just my question would be, how do you, I guess become a person who does sync licensing or who does music. I actually signed a contract with Madden Flow, and of course, it's just based off percentages. And so I've been getting briefs like the day before or 2 days before, and finding myself realizing that nothing that I have like in my bag is catered to the things that the people want. So, how, like, is it, just about building relationships? Like, is it always going to feel like, somebody's just sending me a brief and I have no idea, who they really are, how they can help me? Or is there different relationships that I can make to try to get, a little bit more involved with that person?
Well, you said a couple of different things that I think are really important and really, really good points. And so the first point, I think, which a lot of us um, happens to a lot of us as we transition into trying to write music for film and TV, is that we look at the music that we've done for ourselves as artists, or the music that we've done to try to pitch to. I'm not sure if you're a producer or artist or a writer, but same concept for all three. If we look at the music that we've done to get into the artist placement world, or for ourselves as independent artists, and you get into sync, and that may or may not be relevant. And so it's literally, you know, sync licensing, music industry has so many lanes and layers. And even sync licensing, even writing for TV has so many lanes and layers. Writing for television versus writing for movies versus writing for video games, it could be three different rules. Writing for ads, a different set of rules, a different type of writing. And so that's a transition. And a lot of times what you have in your catalog doesn't always work. And you have to, if you look at this path as not like just a quick hustle, but something that, okay, there's opportunities here, and I have to learn a new, how to adjust my skill set maybe a little bit. And I can still do the artist thing. I can still do the solo project thing. But if I'm going to write for this, it's like switching to say, okay, I'm going to write children's songs. None of the stuff
Right.
I've done in the past works for writing children's songs. But if somebody's going to pay me to write children's songs, then it's a different type of writing, a different type of music. I'll learn that. I'll take some time and really get up to speed on what that is, and then dive into that. But the other thing that you also said was, what I'm going to read into what you're saying, because what I hear you asking is, for the time that's going to take me to do that, to learn these things and to learn how to write fast and to write on demand, and because I can't use my old stuff, is it worth it when I don't have tested relationships? And that goes into, how do you actually build relationships where you actually trust the person who's sending you a brief, and you know that you're dealing with
Yeah.
somebody credible, you know that you're dealing with, you didn't just take the first thing that came along, but you've actually talked and chatted and worked with them. So just a story from within our camp. I do work for Steph, and I met her here in this room. But we chatted on Zoom, and we had numerous, not just in Clubhouse, but we've had numerous conversations, before she ever sent me anything, and she was filling me out. We were talking, we're getting to know each other. And I mean, it doesn't always happen like that, but I think when it's done well, it happens like that. So that, if you're going to shift, it's best to kind of have a relationship, or at least have some insight into who people say they are, and that they can do what they say they can do.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of asked my question better than I asked. I think that was a great way to put it. Because that is definitely how I was feeling. Working a 50-hour week job and getting a brief, and me having to be at work at 7 in the morning, but the brief is saying they need it by midnight. How to decide. When I send this, I haven't really gotten any placements or anything yet, and there's really no response. So how do I know that when I send these things, like, they're going to the right places, or it's just kind of like sending it into a black hole and then hoping that somebody responds.
Oh, Darius, I mean, you're kind of saying the age-old thing that, well, I'm going to say mo money, mo problems. It actually doesn't go away. The bigger you get, it actually happens more and more. The only thing that I would say, and I say that to say, that still happens at every level of the game. The only thing that might change, like Eric said, is you will eventually find those people that you do trust more. But if you're growing your business, you're always going to be working with new people who are sourcing deals for you or briefs for you too. So you're kind of always playing that game. But I think Eric put it right, which is, come on, Daraj, back me up in this. What do I always say in this room? Be a human, just, try to build human relationships and be really patient with the process, and try not to get discouraged, because I know that feeling of like getting a brief and being like, oh man, I thought I had a million songs, but I have a million songs in my catalog and not one of them fits for this brief. How did I not have something like this? And then not feeling like you have enough time to turn it around. But two things will change. Like Eric said, you'll be a human, you'll build relationships, and you'll find those people that are willing to, you're willing to take the risk for. And then you'll also start to build out your team, your squad, your peeps. And like when I don't have time to do something, I hit up Eric or Daraj or Herman or Koichi or, a lot of other people who are on my team and then are also assigned to us as vendors that we can kind of tap into, that we trust, to help us turn something around in a ridiculous amount of time. We had a huge project that Eric, Herman, Jason, and someone else on our team turned around 4 different songs for our client within a 12-hour period. We found out about the gig at like 4 or 5 at night. Didn't really get the details till I think it was like 8 or 9 Eric's time, and we turned it in at 9 a.m. the next morning. So, and Eric won it.
Sheesh.
Ta-da! So it happens like that sometimes, but Eric kind of figured he could trust me at some level to know that my client wasn't full of shit and that they were actually going to take something that we were using. The other thing you can ask is, as you get to know people, how wide is this brief? Is this out to 300 people on Taxi or on the Facebook or things like that? Or can you ask the person that you got it from? And please, artists, writers, do not be afraid to ask this. Say, is it your brief? You can ask people, is this your direct brief, or do you think that this is going out to multiple people? That's a valid question to ask, and you absolutely should ask it. And just be polite when you do, but that's going to help you determine if it's worth, pulling that all-nighter or not.
Yeah.
I see
I was going to
Josh.
say
Oh, go ahead,
too,
Daraj.
and just because I know Darius as well, like one of the things that help, because I think both cases, you can kind of, I think it's good to be prepared for those times where you need a like 12, 24-hour turnaround on a track. Like I get those. And if, like depending on the relationship, depending on, what the brief is for, I might, jump on it. You know what I mean? Like actually I just did something yesterday that they needed yesterday, but like being sharp enough to be able to kick out stuff in that time is one side, but also I think being proactive with your own personal catalog and just creating a lot of music towards the common themes that come up. And that's one of the reasons why, on controlcam.com, we created that resource of the top 24, songwriting themes that show up in sync, because you'll start to see just, a trend at times for just requests that come up. And so it's good to create a catalog based on, what the need is, what you're good at, and just have a lot of it on hand so that when, the brief does come up, because sometimes I don't have the time to create, at that moment, but hey, I got a song that fits this because I already, I made it with that in mind. Like I know this is going to come up at some point. So I would say moving into this space, that's one of the things I would advocate for, is just write and create a ton of music so you'll always be ready when the opportunity comes.
Gotcha.
Great point. Great point. Thanks so much, Darius.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, Victoria, got you next.
Hey, first of all, thank you guys so much for taking time to have this room. It's been so helpful. I've been here for a little while. So thank you guys. I have so many questions, but I'm going to just start with 2 that I think are a little bit related. So I have been writing for a while, but I've never put anything out there in the world. So my questions are, for pitching to sync, does it need to be a fully polished, ready to go song? Or could it be more demo like and then it gets polished in the process? And then my other is it better that the song is already published before?
Say the first part again.
Like, does it need to be completely produced, ready to go, the song?
Gotcha. Um, so yeah, if you're cataloging songs and pitching those songs, then for the most part, yeah, they should be ready to go, produced, broadcast ready. And so broadcast ready means that somebody can take it and can play it on the air in a show, and it sounds quality like everything else is there. And I use the term broadcast ready intentionally because um, that doesn't always mean that you need to pay for a mix or pay for a separate master. If you listen to the things that are out, many things these days are done within DAWs. Many things are run through a limiter in your DAW and not sent to a mastering house, but just the quality has to be at the level of the other things that are broadcast ready. I will say I'd said usually because there are times where I might do a partial song or have a song idea, and that could be because I have a specific relationship with, say, another producer or collaborator that I work with, or another group or music house that I work with, and I know that they might be interested in that particular sound, and they might be interested in uh, collaborating on that sound with me. But that type of stuff comes, I think, after you have the relationship with those people already. For the most part, the types of things you're going to be pitching are fully produced songs. And then your second part was, I forgot your second part.
It was,
Doesn't need to be
should it already
published.
be, yeah.
When you say should it be published, meaning, what do you mean when you say published? Like, does it,
Like out on a platform like Spotify
gotcha.
or something. Like, does it
No,
need to be out in the world?
not necessarily. Most of the stuff that I've done or created, I haven't actually released. Sometimes it's good if you do, and sometimes people don't want it. Sometimes certain people want to be the one that discovered that song, or especially if they're signing it exclusively, or if they're doing a buyout. So, but it's not necessary. You can. I know artists who will release albums and then pitch those albums or the singles of those albums to different sync opportunities. So you totally can, but it's not required.
But do have it registered with your PRO. Just make sure, yeah, it's registered in that sense.
See everybody's mics light up when Mike said
Yeah.
that. So it's important that that's button up. That's a button up your business thing. And I will speak to one more thing on the polished demo front, which is super sad but very true. There are going to be times where people will say, hey, you could give us a thought for this if you're doing some original music creation for things. And they'll say, don't worry about it. You can, kind of give us a half finished or not fully produced demo or things like that. But they almost never mean it. So don't listen to them. And it sucks because you don't want to have to do so much work. But I have found that clients are really incredibly bad at listening through things. And what I mean by listening through is I'll send a halfway produced demo of something and it'll sound, what some people would say like broadcast quality for some things, but we think is like half-assed done. And we'll say, oh, don't listen to this. We just put in, some junk vocals or we put in other things like that. And then they'll leave us a page worth of notes on the stuff we said, don't listen to. So my advice is get as close as you can in those situations. Even if they say a demo is fine, I would go as close to done as you can be.
Yeah, and I would say too, it's funny. I always say this when it comes to, because I do design and branding and stuff like that. Like I kind of have a rule, if like don't send the client anything that you're not really like comfortable with or you're not sold on, because either they may not get it or that might be the thing that they choose that's just like, oh man, this isn't like the best quality, whatever. But I would say too on, with submitting demos, like Steph hit it right on the head, but like two things I'll say, like as you're getting into this space, I think is really, and that's why we created Control Camp, to have a community of people that you can, connect with in this space. But, building relationships with other people who are, who've been in it and just getting feedback if you're unsure about where your music is, if you feel like it's up to speed or not, if you need to change anything. And the second thing I'll say, we also do a listening session every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if anybody was ever curious, if they just wanted to see if their music was up to speed or whatever, we created a space to kind of help answer that question as best we can from our experience. So it's a really great question, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we've got Lisa up next.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight?
Great, how are you?
I'm
What
good.
up?
Not much. Hey, I just wanted to question if I wanted to just say I wanted to sort of gear some of my music to like because some of the stuff I write about is sort of like mental health, anxiety, getting better, addiction. Like where if I wanted to get into that space to reach some of those people in terms of uh, just being able to be a part of that environment in terms of, a mental health awareness or different types of groups to get into, to sort of, maybe be able to use my music or in that space. Does that make sense?
Like nonprofits who deal with those
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
issues. Anybody have any experience matching music with nonprofits?
I guess not.
No.
No, I
Well,
do. I
I
just feel
mean,
like I feel bad.
there
I feel like
are.
I'm answering every question.
That's
Well, you
okay.
can't help being awesome.
That's right.
Oh
I
no.
I
T,
can
did you
actually
have
add
one?
something.
And not exclusively
Go
nonprofit
ahead.
as well either, just just in that space. Go ahead if you were going to answer that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first off, hi everybody.
Hi.
I don't, I don't want to always say that I have all the answers, but I have experience on both sides. Meaning, I've started my own nonprofit, and we've had situations where we've needed advertising. And you have those ad companies that take on clients and have their own music supervisory teams. And you it's all a matter of knowing where to look. You have to be very
Right.
laser focused on where to look. So usually when we have people come up with music, first thing we ask, it's like, where do you see yourself placing this music? So you pretty much answered that question. You know that the music you have kind of would fit in that space. Now, the question would be, what ad agencies or what spaces would take on those kind of clients, like Truth, right? I think that's um one of those commercials that we see all the time. They have more ad money, and they send out briefs as well. So there's certain places that may have a home for that. It's just a matter of being laser focused on where to look. What ad agencies have music supervisory teams, building those organic relationships, and hoping they don't have a pre-approved list. That would kind of eliminate you from that. So if they
Hmm.
are able to look for music outside, and you can pitch it to them, then best of luck to you. That's
Hmm.
just my little 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you.
I have I have something I can add as well. But I would also look into sites like I know there's one called Pond5 .com. It's PON as in Nancy, D as in Delta, the number
Mhm.
5.com. It's pretty much a kind of like an online library. You can kind of upload as much music as you want, non-exclusively. And I guess what's cool about them is that you can add, keywords and moods and things like that. So if you wanted to add specific keywords to that describe the kind of lyrics that you have in your music, that could be a way for some nonprofits who may use that service to get, to get music at a lower budget than some of the bigger nonprofits. That may be a good resource for you as well to kind of try out.
Hey guys, my name is Jared. I'm
Hold
a
on, Jared. Hey, Jared, hold on 1 second. We have an order on the stage, but you got about 6 people in front of you, and then we'll get to
okay.
you, okay? All right. Cool.
Dope.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that question. All right, go ahead, Daraj.
Cool. Yes. Shoot, super great room. And just a reminder, everybody, we're recording this room tonight, and then we've also have on controlcamp.com past rooms that we record as well. So if you're just joining us and you missed anything, don't worry. We actually will have this room available and everything that was spoken about earlier. So, but just to I think we got some new faces in here. Catch everybody up and introduce who we are. We are Control Camp, community built for independent artists who want to get their music in TV and film. I'm one of your hosts, Daraj, and I'm an indie hip hop artist based out of Orlando, Florida. Joining me is my co-host Eric Campbell, not Camber, Eric Campbell, songwriter, composer, and we both have experience within this space with sync licensing and our music being used for major brands. And we wanted to create a safe space community to support other artists who are looking to have their music used in the same way. This is a room that we do every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like I said, if you missed it earlier, we'll have a recording that you can check out on our website, controlcamp.com. And yeah, so we like to bring in just different, like we got a full house tonight. We just bringing on a panel of, supervisors, music supervisors, licensing agents, publishers, composers, and just different industry gatekeepers to help weigh in on this conversation of what's needed and what it takes to succeed with your music, specifically for TV and film. And so, yeah, so we're going to keep the conversation going. And tonight we're doing a little different format than what we usually do. We're bringing just people up on stage and answering just whatever questions you might have. And so before we get back into that, just to give everyone a heads up, this month is a really special month for us. In light of Women's History Month, we'll be doing different Wednesday rooms curated around just celebrating a lot of the women creatives in this space, female composers and, agents and reps who are just killing it in this industry. And so next week, we have some of the ladies from the CBS Viacom network coming to speak with us. On the 24th, we're doing a women's composer panel and spotlight for the ladies who show up and who are part of Control Camp. We want to highlight those ladies. So if you're here as well and you're a composer, producer, be sure to go to controlcamp.com. There's a submit music tab at the top right. And there you can submit like a playlist of songs and be in consideration for that panel on the 24th. So we want to highlight all of the ladies here. And then the last day of the month, Music Box will be bringing in different music executives in the space who are women that are just killing it. And so it'll be a really dynamic panel. So, with that said, make sure you just tap into us. If you're not following Control Camp already, make sure you go to either Eric or I's bio. At the bottom left, you can find Control Camp there and follow the room, and you'll get notifications. And definitely, tap into our resources that we have available for you all on controlcamp.com. So that being said, let's keep the show going.
Awesome. Also, Control Camp is listed at the top of the phone. If you look above the Ask Us Anything at Control Camp, you can click on that too. That'll take you right. I just learned that like last week. That'll take you.
Yeah, that would probably be easier.
That'll take you right to the camp, and you can hit follow from there. So, all right. So this is we've covered 60 minutes. So we're going to switch to the second half. And so we were a little loose with the moderation on the first half because this was new. We wanted to try this, but we're going to try to get as many questions in the second hour as possible. So we're going to start going back to our normal process, which is one question, no follow-up, please. When you ask your question, we're going to move you back to the audience, and you can listen to the response from the audience, and that'll just help us to keep cycling people up on the stage. We got some serious experts. Expert is relative. We're all passionate. We all are experienced in our field. But everybody that you see with the moderator symbol on them has significant experience in sync, whether they're a composer or an executive or a supervisor or what have you. So we're thankful to have. You can click on all their bios to kind of see who they are and what they do, but we're thankful for everyone sharing their wisdom. So one question with no follow up, and then for the moderators who are on the stage, we're just going to do 1 to 2, two responses per person, and then let's keep it moving. So even if it's a really, really good point, if there's something that has to be said, we can DM that person, contact them. Let's try to limit it to 2 responses and then on to the next question. All right, and so to kick the second half off, we got Josh. How you doing, Josh?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Really appreciate the opportunity and the room. This is a really great source of value. Just had a quick question. I have a artist group that is trying to target music licensing exclusively for the sports and fitness industry, and so I kind of had. I wish I could have been on the first segment, but I had a kind of a two-parter of how to find libraries / supervisors exclusively to work on something like that specialize in that, and then how to get past the cold email follow-up game.
Okay, no, that can be answered as one question. So I appreciate you asking that. I don't. I will hold off my response in case somebody wants to jump in because we got so many people who haven't had a chance to speak. Anybody?
I want to give Eric and Daraj a shout out on this one. We can get into it here, but I also want to point you and everyone else to controlcamp.com. And by the way, these guys don't pay me. I just think they did a really good job. It's ctrlcamp.com. And they actually wrote out the answers that we're going to kind of talk about in a really great step-by-step guide, including, how to pick your songs, what validates them, and then had literally 7 steps on how to get they said DMs open, but really how to get your messages opened by music supervisors or anyone who might license you. So before we get into it, I just want to shout out that resource. It's ctrlcamp.com. Go check that out.
Awesome.
Also,
Go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to ask why you're specifically limiting it to the sports and fitness. I mean, music that works in that arena works in other arenas.
Well, actually, I'm a trailer composer by trade,
Mhm.
so I write a lot of high energy, aggressive music. So that's kind of why we were focusing on that, because the other my business partner is a songwriter, so like it kind of works for the sports realm of things as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it definitely would. I would also just, keep your options open to other opportunities as well, and try and link up with somebody that can get it out to as many folks as possible and not just, sort of limit the scope too much.
And only thing I would add to that, Josh, is that I think the songs you write attract the type of people you want to do business with. So if you, like I said, if you looking at what's working in sports, and as Mike's saying, the type of stuff that works there can work in lots of places. But if you're looking at those songs, then you write those songs, and then I don't know so much about researching. I mean, you can look at who's getting certain placements and do some of that research. But if you've got the songs that work for high energy sports stuff, you'll attract the supervisors and the brands and the other people who are trying to place for high energy. So I think it's kind of like write the songs and they'll come. That's just the simple answer.
Yeah.
Eric, do you mind if I could jump in on this one really quick?
Actually, we wanted to do 1 or 2, so
gotcha.
Let's
Hey,
try to
guys.
keep it moving. Who's that?
This is T. I
Hey, Josh.
apologize. I want to take time just to recognize Mike Knobloch in the room, president of Global Film Music and Publishing at Universal Pictures. If it's cool, I'd like to bring him up.
Oh, thank you for calling him out. Yeah, most definitely.
Welcome, how are you, man?
Mike Knobloch.
Thanks
Big
for having
Mike.
me. That's why I cannot lurk in a room without getting called up. But I'm excited and happy to be here. And I'll shut up because I know you're trying to run this efficiently. But thanks so much for that acknowledgement. And I'm happy to be here and help in any way that I can.
Happy to have you, Mike. Thank you. All right, McKinney. I think McKinney's next here.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So glad I wrote my question down. Let me open my note app real quick. Okay, so I made my way through the Control Camp ebooks, and just to second what Steph said, like 70 to 80% of my questions when I come in are actually answered in those ebooks. So I highly recommend like anyone listening, like go and download, or it's super cheap. It's like $3. So it's really worth it. But anyway, the only thing that I'm not really confident on after going through them is I guess a way to maximize my time as far as the need that my music would fill and who those specific sync agencies would be. So I guess the question is what's the best way to kind of look for or research or find specific agencies that cater to your style of music?
It's a good question.
Uh, I could I can answer that one.
Go ahead, Clint.
So I guess one trick that I use, right? So if there's a specific show or a film that kind of has the kind of music that you do, or the music that you make, and they place a lot of that style, sometimes you can reverse engineer it. You can go to the credits, the end credits, see who the music supervisor is, or music editor, or someone involved in the music department, and then kind of do a Google search from there. I also use imdb.com, and I'll type in that TV show or that film, scroll down to the music department, and try and get some contact information there. Sometimes they'll have, a music supervision company or licensing company that was involved, or they'll have the music supervisor, and then just kind of do some due diligence from there. Do your research, um, see what they're working on, see if you can find some contact information, and just use the resources that Control Camp has, as far as reaching out to people like everyday human beings, and being respectful of their time, and just kind of reach out from there. And that's kind of a way I kind of reverse engineer, trying to find companies that place a lot of the music that I make.
That's great. And I'm gonna keep it moving, but McKinney, if you DM me also, I had an answer, but I want to keep the process moving. So DM me the question, and I'll leave you a voice memo with my answer for that. I only say that because I know you're in the camp, and we'll see you later. All right, let's say Alexis is next, right? Yep.
Hey, is it okay if I could possibly go after Alana?
Oh, sure. All right, let's
Is
go.
that
I,
okay with
I
you?
think that should be fine there. Yeah,
Yep, no
that's
worries.
fine. We'll come
Okay.
back to you, Alexis.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Hey,
Hey, Alana.
hi guys. So it's just 2:11 in AM in London, but how are you all?
That is awesome. We're
That's
good. How are you doing?
awesome.
I'm
So thank
good.
you
It's
so
just
much
addictive.
for hanging with us so late. We really appreciate that.
No, do you know what? It's so much wisdom and amazing people. Anyway, I'll get to my point. I'm a singer songwriter, but I'm also an ambassador to independent music. So I have like a lot of artists that I have worked with over 10 years that have just incredible, impeccable music that is so great for storytelling. And I myself like to write empowering songs that seem to be quite pertinent for the world that we're living in right now. My question is like, I've got so much music on my hard drive, and so do they. What's the best way for us to present our work? I hear about disco. Is that an actual platform that we can upload our work on and meet people? Is there anything you can like tell me about what's the best thing to do? Like if we have a lot of work that is already categorized.
For somebody else may jump in, but let me just start by first saying I don't think there's a best way. I mean, we're living in a time where there's just so many options, and so you've got a choice between different options. Um, I, along with a number of people on the stage, use disco and love it. A number of us probably also use Song Trader. We use them both differently, but they're places that we can kind of load our music, pitch our music. There's there are a few others out there. So again, it's not the best, but that is definitely a relevant one. But I'll open up in case anyone wants to add anything to that.
And I'll say something real quick too with disco. Disco is really cool if you're wanting to have a place to easily manage your catalog. And I would say before, probably like a couple months ago, um, they were just solely kind of in that space, but now they introduced disco libraries where you actually have the option to have your music available for certain music supervisors who are kind of in the disco network. So primarily it's for cataloging music, but you can also now with their libraries add on, have your music placed and accessible to music supervisors. But I'll say and let anyone else answer it more if they have comments.
Just to the disco point, or anything that you're uploading or anything that we suggest, I just want to kind of give the disclaimer of we're not endorsing any one particular platform, because we're all still figuring it out ourselves, and no matter how long you're in this business, that's the game, right? So there's lots of ways to organize your music, including Box, and many supervisors are very particular about how they want and how they don't want. And then to your kind of point of if you already have a catalog that wants to be shared, and how to kind of network with those people, I think you're in one of the best places to do it so far. I actually think Clubhouse has been one of the most effective. I've been able to pull really amazing creators from this. So I think consider, the pitch and the platform as a possibility of, being different from each other as another option. So, have a great place to organize and tag your music, be it disco or Box. Box is not the best for that, but it is the best for security. And then pitch your music separate and pitch yourself separate, and be able to say, meet people in the community and supervisors and other people. You're in the room with some of the biggest on the stage, including guys like Mike Novak here. And there's also collaborators that you can work with here. There's Clint and Koichi and Vo and Eric and Daraj. There are also sync reps in the room like Mike. So there are lots of different opportunities to collaborate. And I would say across the board, the best way to get into sync is to really collaborate with any number of the people I was just mentioning, because then they open up you to their Rolodex and their exposure, and give you opportunities you might not be seeing.
That's a whole gem right there. I don't want to understate how big collaboration is. All right, Alexis, how are we looking now?
Okay, good. Sorry for that. I
No
appreciate
worries.
you waiting. Okay, so you may have already answered this, for which I apologize if I missed it. But being approached by some sync folk, I keep hearing on Clubhouse that some of you guys want streaming links, like a private SoundCloud link or something to that effect. And then sometimes I hear, no, that's not what we want at all. And I'm trying to differentiate between who is a legitimate person based on what kind of link that they're trying to get from me, and who I can trust, and what is the standard for what you all want.
That's good. Very good question. And unfortunately, the answer is not as straightforward as the question, because Steph was just alluding to this in her response. Is that there are lots of formats out there, and every person that you deal with, there's no standard. Is the bottom line. There's no standard. If I make a song, I like, for instance, I keep my catalog on disco, but if I meet a supervisor and I say I have disco links, they'll say, well, I only like Dropbox links. And so what I do is I send them a Dropbox links. And somebody else might say, send me 3 MP3s, low quality MP3s to my email, no more than 3. And there's no correlation between the format that someone is asking for and their credibility. I don't think you can use that as a formula, because everybody just finds a workflow that works for them, and we're coming in to do business with them. So as my approach is whatever they need, because they also have clients who have certain requirements, and just like their requirements, the supervisors or the execs requirements are over the place, their clients requirements are all over the place. And so It's just, it's more of, this all goes back to, who am I going to be in business with? If I don't have a good feeling about that person, the format isn't the issue. The issue is I don't know enough about them. I have to do more research. I have to feel them out. I have to tread slowly. And I think if there's one thing to really share today in terms of relationships from some of the questions that I've been asking, it's move slowly. Don't be so hungry for a placement or an opportunity that you just jump, because you don't know people. We don't know who's who, and you don't know who's what's what. So take the time and figure them out. A lot of supervision companies, agencies, reps, they have websites with their portfolios. They have Instagram pages that have placements that they've gotten. They post in Twitter stories and Instagram stories. There's a lot of information out there to kind of feel somebody out. And so, even with that, you still may be unsure. So if you're unsure, move slowly. And it's okay to say, if an opportunity comes, it's okay to pass on an opportunity or risk losing an opportunity to take the time to get to know someone. I don't think anyone will close the door on you because you want to get to know them before jumping into business with them.
And if they do, that can be a red flag for you. If you're, not allowed to ask questions, or if they react poorly, if you're trying to validate, who they are. But, in your validation, also be careful to Google people. Don't ask them questions that you can easily answer yourself. Try to validate them through the resources like Eric said. Don't ask them things that are very obvious, because obviously not everybody has a lot of time. So try to save, the questions that are important, but don't be afraid to ask things. If you really did your homework and you really dug deep and you still didn't find what you needed to have those things, then just ask them and say, can I see some of the people you've worked with? Can you point me in the direction of other writers? Do you have any recommendations? Any of those things are really fine for you to ask, and you shouldn't be afraid. And, I will, to the first part of your question, Jessica Mulia, who's a music supervisor, pal of ours, who's in here a lot. She's in Scotland, so she's not always on because it's late there. She will tell you she doesn't care where she gets, sometimes it's SoundCloud for her. Me personally, I hate SoundCloud. I don't like to receive it. I think the bigger thing you have to do is talk to the person that you're trying to pitch music to or work with. And if they give you specific directions, we have an onboarding system when we have new vendors that says, please only upload your work to Box, because that's what we function in. And if we use Disco on the side, we do it separately. And it's hard for us to, especially if we're on the go, to take things from one platform to the other. So follow directions. That's a really good advice. But I think Eric's right in saying, don't try to validate by the platform that they use, because one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Real talk.
And if I can speak on a point of preparation, just a general point, if I could, Eric, of
Please,
preparation. This actually also covers Ilana's previous question. She said she had multiple artists that she's working with in a catalog, about 10 artists and just a catalog of music that's categorized. So to be prepared, you should at least, just for yourself, before anyone approaches you or you approach anyone, please just have that full song, high-res full song, and have an instrumental on standby and possibly a cappella on standby, at least. And then that metadata information, you want your artist name, you want the copyright holder's name, you want their writer's name, their PRO, their IPI number, you want their publishing name information, the publishing PRO, the publisher's IPI number, and you need that publisher contact email information as well as the master contact. So for the sound recording, the master is what I'm speaking of when I say sound recording is what I'm speaking of when I say master contact information. You want to at least have all of that in a nice organized database. Even when you're ready to upload this information to Disco or Box or whomever, or if you need to tag your MP3s with this metadata, either using iTunes or whatever you can use to tag your MP3s, you want to have this information ready to go before you even start.
Bow, bow, bow.
Very awesome. Awesome. All right. Devin, I think you're next.
Thank you. What an amazing group of people you guys are. Thanks for answering all these questions. I'm fascinated by it all. I have a quick question. I'm co-writing with different people from Canada and New Zealand, and I'm in America, and I want to register some of these songs with my PRO, which is BMI, and I'm trying to understand if I need to just register it as a writer, or I also have a publishing account with them. Do I do both of them with the song that that I've written with these co-writers, and do they also do the same with their PROs? Do they register them as a writer and a publisher?
Great question. I'll let somebody else answer it.
So I'll take a stab at it. You with BMI, you can have your shares consolidated under just your name, your writer share and your publisher share. You can parse it out if you want to create a publishing entity as well. ASCAP, it's more common where they, I think, I don't know if they require it, but it's more set up to have separate a publishing entity and a writer, and your name is the writer entity. And so, yeah, it really just comes down to percentages. If you're going to consolidate it just under your name as a writer or just your name, then you just have to make sure that whatever publishing split that you are allotted per the agreement with the other writers is reflected in that percentage breakdown. So, if it were that you were getting 25% of the publishing, 25% of the writer share, your total would be 50% just under your name. And BMI would account for that. So, or you can break it up and say, your name, publishing, LLC, or whatever. Or if you don't feel like setting up a corporation, but just make up a publishing entity name. And then, the other writers, they can register. Other writers can be registered with different PROs on the track. It doesn't really affect, the track's ability to be licensed or used in any way. But they should go ahead and do that if they want those performance royalties, collected and reported on their behalf. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just, if I send it to somebody else and they're a publisher, and I've already submitted it as I'm the publisher, do I get in a nut, in a tangle?
I would highly recommend that you go by the industry standard, which is to have your writer share be your writer share and your publishing share be your publishing share, which is, because especially you said you're dealing with probably SOCAN writers or, in Canada or other writers in different countries and things like that. It varies per country as well. But the standard that you should do on your split sheet first before you even register your song is, designate the writers and their shares and then their corresponding publisher shares, get everybody's PRO information. And some websites allow you, depending on your PRO, allow you to register just your portion. Other ones require you to actually register the entire song and the other people's portions at the same time. So it's different per PRO. But you should, if you want to be prepared, I would do a good split sheet, knowing all that information first and being prepared to register the entire song, writer and publisher, both sides, and to know those IPI numbers and publishing names and legal writing names too. And I highly recommend you talk to your creative partners and diligently press them about what their writers' names are, because their artist names, a lot of artists like Daraj and other people you see in the room, go by their monikers and sometimes don't realize they might have registered a legal name or not registered their moniker within their PRO. And you want to make sure that you're registering those things correctly. So button up your business, before you do that.
And I think too, I'm curious if I could speak for him. He's wondering if he has, the ability to register on behalf of everybody and somebody else also registers, everybody else's splits. Like if that double registration causes any issues. I assume if they're the same information, no, but if somebody kind of registered a split or something like that, does that cause any confusion?
It can. It absolutely can. So if you register them the same way and they allow you to register, multiple PRs, and you should always aim to register, through your PRO to make sure it's registered, even if someone else is registering for you. And a lot of times, when you're turning in cue sheets, the company that you're working with will do that for you. Or if you have a publisher or if you have a manager or other people handling that, they'll register those things for you. But if you're doing it on your own which a lot of people in this room are, you should always make sure they're registered. If you do misregister something, it can send a song into question in terms of splits. Sometimes it doesn't allow you to. It'll say, no, this is not right. But sometimes if it does, and if, you should always check your splits no matter what. Jason and I were talking about this recently. You really should go back into your catalog from time to time pretty frequently and make sure. I think we talked about this last week where people were talking about, kind of the renaming issue and things like that. You should go back into your BMI, your ASCAP, your CSAC, your SOCAN, whatever your PRO is, and see who things are registered. And if they're not registered to the right names, claim a dispute. So those are things to consider too. I highly recommend, because it's different for each PRO, go to the website. There's a lot of resources, and I don't mean Control Camp. I actually mean if you're ASCAP, go to ascap.com. If you're BMI, go to bmi.com. If you're CSAC, same thing. There are a lot of directions on how to register your song, but whoever said, I don't know if it was Mike, and it's digital, just make sure that you do that in advance of everything and make sure that you have all that metadata, that you need buttoned up.
Very, very good. Raj, do you want to do a quick reset before we do the remaining people?
Yeah, I'll do it real quick because I know we got a lot of people still lined up. But yes, for anybody who is just joining us and is unfamiliar with this room, welcome. We are Control Camp. We're a community built for artists wanting to get their music in TV and film. And I'm one of your co-hosts, Raj. I'm an indie hip hop artist based out of Orlando, Florida. Alongside of me is my co-host, Eric Campbell, songwriter and composer. Both of us have had success in this space with having our music used for and with different brands, and so we wanted to create a community in a space where we can help be a support for any other artists and composers who are looking to get into that space. And as you can see, we have a full panel of just really qualified individuals, and we love to bring other voices into the mix. We're very peer led. We don't claim to have all the answers. We like to bring other experienced people into the conversation to help just create a broad lay of the land to give you all the resources to help you just really, really do well in the space, because we want to see everybody win. Sync licensing for me as an artist has been probably one of the more liberating things for me on all fronts, just moving into this space. And so I just have a big passion for it and advocate for it, and want to provide, we all want to provide that space, for other artists. Tonight's room is a little different format than what we typically do. It's a very kind of open form, ask us anything type format. And so, if you're in the audience, you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. If you've missed anything from this room, we started it, and every Wednesday we do this at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you missed us, no worry, these rooms are recorded, and so you can find those over at controlcamp.com. If you go to our Sync 101 page, we have some PDF resources there. Also, we have a Patreon where all of our past rooms will be available for you as well. So be sure to check that out. And again, our normal format on Wednesdays is we'll bring up a supervisor or licensing agent or composer and just kind of do a Q&A, and also have time later on where you, the audience, can come up and ask them questions as well. So like I said, this room's a little different format this time. But yeah, and lastly, before we transition back into our Q&A, we just want to make you aware that is in light of Women's History Month, we're doing some really special rooms coming up. Next week, we plan to have a few of the ladies over at CBS Viacom come speak. And so we're really excited to have them come. The week after that, on the 24th, we're highlighting women composers and producers that are here with us, and a part of Control Camp. So if you are a regular and you're a part of Control Camp, we just been telling all the ladies, go over to controlcamp.com and submit your music. Give us a playlist to put in consideration to have you as a featured artist and composer on the 24th, because we really want to celebrate the women who are just killing it in this space. And then lastly, Steph and Music Box will be doing an amazing panel with different execs and artists and composers who are in this space to again highlight some of the women who are just really doing exponential things. So stick with us this month. We have some really cool stuff coming up. So with that said, Eric, I'm gonna pitch it back to you, man.
Cool. All right, let's again move quickly. Again, one question. Um, we won't do follow up. We'll put the person right back in the audience after they ask the question, and then 1-2 answers per moderator, please. Not we're in the last half hour, so ideally 1, but 2 if it's something really critical. All right, Kristen, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for taking my question. I've had to pop in and out because I have 2 young children I'm taking care of. So this might have already been addressed, but my question is, how do you kind of simultaneously walk the path of both artist and creator of sync music? I mean, I have, a fan base that's waiting for new material, yet I'm trying to reserve it for, unreleased material for various sync agencies that want unreleased material. So how do you kind of walk that line?
Can I pick on Black Prez? I want to see if he can jump in on this one because him and Psychosis, I think they both kind of straddle that line as well.
Is he there? He might have stepped away. Black Prez there.
We might be picking the fro.
And Vo also. Vo may have some.
Yeah, Vo, if you want to chime in too, man.
I just came.
You're breaking up, Psychosis. I don't know if it was just me.
No, Psychosis is breaking up.
Daraj, I'd love to hear how you skirt the line because Daraj is being modest, but Daraj had a Super Bowl ad and a bunch of other really great sing things and is also a really great artist.
I didn't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah, I wanted to pitch it to somebody else.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give you a flower. Let's go. Come on.
All right, cool. Well, yeah. For me, I mean, it's definitely very appropriate question because my background. I was formally signed to an independent label. I was there for about 4 or 5 years and grew the majority of my the fan base that I have during that time. Had a couple syncs while with the label and just really got interested in this space, and so transitioned to go fully independent. And so now there is that kind of balance of as my music is becoming more sync forward, how do I cater to my existing base and the new base that I'm curating, and then my music style has changed a little bit, you know what I mean? And so for me personally, and I'll say for me personally, and then just more broadly for maybe any artist, it could be helpful. For me purposely, like I've always kind of been a chameleon of sorts, and I just had a very like I'm just always passionate and interested in creating in different genres. And so when I came into the space, it actually gave me permission to try new sonic styles and just authentically just go all the way there where my initial brand, the Daraj brand I had set up was it just didn't lend itself to it. So like I have a duo that I call Sunny O, and we do kind of more indie, like vintage, hip hop pop kind of vibe. And that's a whole separate brand that we've curated, and we, only do stuff in that space. And then the Daraj brand is kind of morphed into this hybrid of like, more commercial mainstream hip hop, but also floating in the cinematic hip hop, hip hop space. And then I have, a couple other aliases that I just do different genres. So I've been able to give myself permission to segment my music and create different aliases, for different projects. But I would say, as an artist, really doing the research to see like, are there any other artists that sound like me that are doing really well in sync? Because you may be able to do a slight shift, figure out like what themes are most requested for TV and film, and also seeing what's getting placed with artists who are sound alikes, and just making a small pivot to cater to the needs of brands, because sync becomes more of a where on the artist side I was catering to a large base of fans and stuff like that, which I still do, but when you're doing sync, you now have this other aspect of I'm trying to make music that serves this audience, you know what I mean? So there can be some slight pivots and shifts you can do to support that. Or, just having, like I said, just a segmented artist brand, or just even, being a behind the scenes artist and just creating, sounds for sync that doesn't necessarily cross over, or, your artist brand, really is aware of, or services or whatever. So sorry, I thought that was a long answer, but yeah.
No, it was a great answer. And I want to speak to
Also,
one more thing. Oh, go ahead, Koichi.
my bad. I was just gonna say a quick admin thing for any of the artists listening who maybe this, like, obviously the concept of pseudonyms shouldn't be anything new and it's been brought up plenty of times. But just a heads up that those pseudonyms should be registered. I mean, that's a whole different entity that you create through your PROs, and this exists even for composers like me. Like, I have I literally had a library that made me create a pseudonym so that there wouldn't be crossover with other stuff. But that's, it'll make your life easier if you're really going to go down that route to have that. And the PROs operate a little differently. I think ASCAP lets you do like 5, and anything past that you have to pay for it. I can't speak on BMI or CSAC, but yeah, just a heads up on that.
Yeah, those are all really good ways to do it. And Koichi, you're right, is right. Button up your business. That's what I was saying before. Make sure that you're checking with your songwriting partners, because again, everybody's got their aliases. I think to your question is about how do you skirt the line between being an actual front facing artist publicly and also, being a sync artist. And there's a lot of successful artists that do it. There are certainly teams and people, Jason Gleed, who's in this room, was an artist, and then he went into sync. Morgan Dorr, who's on our team, was in Boys Like Girls and is now, a prolific sync guy and still tours with the band from time to time and when COVID permits. But I think what's cool these days is I can tell you, I used to work with just sync teams and I write that way. I'm not a front-facing artist. However, I look more and more these days to find authentic artists. So we work with Shalea, who is, Stevie Wonder's artist. We purposefully find and seek those people out because music supervisors more and more really want authentic artists to be attached to these songs. They're gonna ask for that. And we've run into it before where we've had successful campaigns with brands where they say, oh, cool, this, Eric and Daraj are on hold for a song where we have Jizzle, who's an artist, on it, and Jizzle and Daraj are the featured artists. And this campaign might expand because it has 2 actual artists on it. So if we had done this with other writers that are just sync people that were not artists, we would not be up for the expansion of that campaign. So I would say keep your brand appropriate, keep your socials tight, don't say anything that would embarrass your mom or, dad on the cover of New York Times if it was displayed on the front page. That's my rule for social media. Be authentic to who you are and build your artist sound. Don't try to overthink. There's certainly parameters for sync, but try not to overthink all of them. Be an artist and write a great song first.
Oh, just great advice. That's so cool. All right. Next we got Jared up. What's good, Jared?
Oh, what's up, man? Nah, I'm playing.
Hey guys.
Jared, yep.
So I was just I was chiming in on the Lisa what she had to say earlier about the nonprofits. So I'm apologize if I stepped out of line to answer that.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, so I was gonna pretty much say to Lisa and anybody else who's looking to like do some music with any nonprofits. It's pretty much I'm working with 2 of them right now, and they're usually they're looking for somebody to do music for them or a jingle for them, but they just don't know where to look. And so usually you can go to social media or any platforms to look for them, and also pay attention to their mission statements. And so whatever music that you're making, it'll pretty much be like uplifting and empowerment songs to coincide with what their mission is. And it also depends on the companies. If it's like a big company, is it a smaller independent company? Because I'm based in Los Angeles right now, so I just wanted to say that to her. So just to coincide with
Appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for waiting to say that. We really appreciate that. And just for the room too, sometimes people do ask questions that if you are in the audience and you feel like you have an answer to, we don't always have the bandwidth to bring people up, but almost everyone asking a question and on the stage has their socials linked. So if you have an answer for somebody, hit them up in their DMs and let them know, hey, you asked this question, and I thought that this is another resource that could help you. I think they'd really appreciate that.
It's a great idea, Eric.
All right, 2 a.m. Ricky, we got you next.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
What's up, man?
What's up? I'm 2 a.m. Ricky. I'm a rapper and songwriter from North Carolina, but I live in Atlanta. My question is, I recently released a single called "What You On" featuring CC Peniston. Um, and I've been working on kind of like I think someone earlier said, kind of like when you're looking to reach supervisors, doing it in the reverse. So finding shows that match my demographic, reach doing kind of reverse research to find their music supervisors. But I was also trying to figure out what is another way that I could possibly try to figure out other shows or other or ads or opportunities that could fit my record, my track, and also just my sound as well to reach my demographic. I'm a transgender male artist, so I've been trying to find reach things like, for instance, Pose because my song is more upbeat. But I wasn't sure because when you go online, there's a million different sites and a million different things of information that comes up for you. So, in my position, what is something that you guys would suggest is another way for artists to find opportunities once we figured out what our sound or our niche or what our target for that record is?
I'll jump in and say that um, I think building as an artist is not different from building in sync. So especially like if you have, you know what your niche is, you know who your audience is. And so in the same way that you're reaching out to blogs and playlist owners and maybe distribution networks or other types of ways to promote, that's the same type of relationship building that you would do within sync. Although for the as the artist, a lot of that is focused around promoting a single. I think when you are an artist that's looking for sync opportunities, you're not promoting the single. You're promoting you and your niche, your brand that you've established. So if you are, like you said, you're a transgender male artist, there are numerous, whether it's a supervisor or shows or show producers who are creating content that want to know that there are creators in that community. And so I think that type of outreach goes outside of a single. And that's just reaching, that's researching, on sites like IMDb and on the web to find out who are the executives, who's in that world, who's creating the type of shows, who's creating that type of content, and then making that outreach. Vo, I see your not hand up, but your mic open. You want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to kind of jump on the back of that actually and just say yes, that. And also, one thing that I notice in a lot of the questions about how to find music supervisors, how to find opportunities, and what are the different ways to pitch. The truth is that a lot of what's been discussed here today, and a lot of the secrets and kind of like code cracking that you get from other people. Like I have my own method as well, but for the most part, the center of my method is also IMDb, TuneFind. Doing research on blogs and entertainment magazines that are putting out news about things that are coming and who's working on those things, and then doing the research on that ahead of time. You're studying these things just like you would study stocks or other businesses and other industries. You really want to you really want to make sure that you have the passion to kind of cut through the noise. And I think it's less of, I think I kind of want to course correct some people who have that same exact question, which is not a bad question at all. I get it 100%. Especially if you don't know if there are other answers. I think it's always wise to ask. But I would say that for the most part, it is truly these core resources that are constantly mentioned these different methods for reaching out to music supervisors that are really that you're going to find a lot of consistency in these answers across many people who work in this space. But the question that I never hear asked, which is actually the key, is not, are there more doors? Because no, there are not more doors. The question is how do I cut through the noise and make my presentation, my pitch more unique? Right. So if you want to pitch, if you want to get on a playlist for Spotify, nobody asks, hey, are there different ways to get on a playlist for Spotify? You know what the ways are, and those are just the ways. But then it becomes a question of like, okay, well, how do I, within all of the people trying to get through that door, how do I make myself unique? And I think what you find there is an opportunity not only to lift your brand and to add more value to your brand, add more value to your music, add more value to your presentation. But anything that you do that lifts you up and gives you more strength and more leverage in your pitch, when you're reaching out to people, is also by product just naturally giving you more power as an artist. So none of it hurts. I would also say, make sure that another question that I never really hear people ask, which is really important, is how do I identify projects that mean something to me? Because when a person is passionate about something and they truly connect to a piece of art, which that's what film, television, video games, ads, these are all multi-million dollar productions, pieces of art, the brainchild of somebody who once had this idea, who pitched it to Netflix, and Netflix said yes, and then they cracked a bottle of champagne. And then they spent 3 years with hundreds of people in pre-production, post-production. And what you're trying to do is put your music in on a piece of that massive collaborative story. You want to be a part of that. So you want to make sure that, when you're pitching yourself, it's not just like, hey, what supervisor likes hip hop and likes hip hop with strings. You want to really make sure that you are emitting an authentic desire to lift that project, right? Because a lot of these I don't want to go on for days, but one thing that we don't realize is that, yeah, there's a lot of money in sync, and that's great, but each scene that you're going to be a part of is a part of many people's portfolios, their reels, their resumes. And when they show that reel, you want them to put your music in one of those scenes that they cut in that reel in 20 years, in 30 years, and you want it to stand the test of time. A lot of people think that sync music and being an artist are two different things. I think being a sync artist is the most challenging and gratifying work I've ever done in my life, because I used to be a battle rapper, which is, as you know, is very verbose, very lyrical, gymnastics, a lot of showmanship, right? But sync can often be more universal and more timeless, and it can use less of those intricacies. And even still, people think that sync music is vague. It's not vague. It's universal, and it is harder than battle rap. Right. So I would just say, tap into those same resources that have been mentioned here. And I'm sure they're available on Control Camp as well. Those really are just the doors. Right. If you can find new inventive ways for yourself to network and to reach music supervisors and to kind of build your relationships there, that's awesome, too. Give yourself patience and time to build real human relationships with people. Don't look at people as pitches. Spend some time, find projects that really, really mean something to you, that when you speak, when you get that opportunity to speak to that supervisor, to pitch that supervisor, you send them a truth in that pitch that is undeniable. And whether or not your song is the best song they ever heard in their life, they just feel it that much more because it's real. So that's something I think that will really help you kind of cut through the noise and give you an edge from people who are just putting the collections of music together and just throwing them at people in emails, which is fine too. I mean, you can do things that way as well. And stepping off my soapbox. Thank you very much.
I was about to say, at this point, let's go ahead and pass around a collection plate for Brother Vo. Go ahead, tap your neighbor real quick. Just let them know, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they haven't been here, just welcome to get. That was awesome,
Mic
bro.
drop. Mic drop. That was awesome. Woo!
Vo, we need to invent a new. The air horn just doesn't do it justice. I was literally texting the guys. I'm like, oh my
I
god,
mean,
the
I
balloons
should
are
just
so
play
big.
the offering chords at that point.
That's what we need. We need it. That's exactly what that needed. That Vo, that was amazing.
I
We're
went way
gonna.
too long. I apologize.
No, don't apologize. And I want to
Ever.
give Vo a plug because the guys told me that Vo actually has a course. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to give Vo a little plug on that because, man, even though that felt long to Vo, it wasn't long for us. And it's a tremendous amount of valuable information. So I would go look up Vo's course if I were me. So if that's valuable to
You're
anybody
not
in this room.
you? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
somebody else.
I don't know what I'm saying. It's that time of night, you guys.
That is awesome. Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Always. All right, let's get. So it's
Thank you,
9:53.
guys.
We normally
Appreciate it.
stop at 10. We're going to get through the last four people. So we might run into 10:15, and then as you know, we go right into our after party, which is a casual, unmoderated space. We don't talk sync there. We just kind of chill and get to know our members. You have to be a member of Control Camp for the room to even show up in your hallway. So if you're not, you can click on Control Camp at the top of your phone above the title of the room. So right above the Ask Us Anything, there's a Control Camp with a green house. If you click on that and hit follow, that'll sign you up for Control Camp, and then you should be able to see the room when we do the after party. Sometimes an hour, sometimes we just have fun and we just go till we pass out. But we really become like a family in there, just getting to know each other. And just and that's how relationships are made. It's really we help by talking about the same questions, but the relationships are really made when you just like, oh, you like sushi? Yeah, I like sushi. Oh, you like skiing? Like that's how honestly how business gets done, or leads to how business gets done. So if you've never been, come join us in the after party, and it's a really cool spot. All right, Heather, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. That's a great tagline, Vo. That sync is harder than battle rap. I'm gonna hold on to that one. So happy to be here. I've been in a few Control Camp rooms before. My name is Heather Gray. I'm an artist, songwriter, music producer, audio engineer, and my purpose in music is creating, safe and inclusive space for all the diverse genders out there to create music. That said, yeah, I just wanted to share a quick Control Camp success story with you guys and then ask my question. So from things I've learned specifically from this room, literally saved me yesterday. A music supervisor found me in another room I was in, not related to sync, and listened to my music and started DMing me, and I was prepared for that conversation because of what I learned in Control Camp. That gave me an understanding of sync terminology, and I was ready to answer her questions and had my music ready to send out. So just appreciate all the work y'all are doing.
That is awesome,
I'm smiling so hard right now.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's like the dream scenario, right? Is music soups reaching out to me. That's great. But I'm also actively putting in the work on the other side, and want to know, it seems like I'm learning that there's kind of two sides, like pitching music that I've already made versus writing to briefs. And I don't understand the writing to briefs side very much. Like, how do you get the briefs? What's in the briefs? How do you do business with the briefs? Is the money different? Like, is it fast turnarounds? Like, what is that world?
Can I call on Jason Gleed for this since he's been writing to brief longer than I've been alive? Just kidding.
I'm gonna try to make it short because that's a lengthy
Right.
answer. It's where you find the briefs. You can find them from a number of sources. You're either going to find them from, if you have a relationship with a music supervisor, you're going to get them directly from the source. You can find them from publishers. You can go to music jingle companies and get them through them. You could get them. I'll plug Steph's company, Music Box. Steph and my company, Music Box. Like we get briefs as well. So you're either developing relationships with soups, or you're finding companies that facilitate those relationships. And writing to brief is a skill unto itself. I try to balance it between, being, first and foremost, I'm a songwriter, but writing to brief I find really, exciting and challenging. And it turned out I was actually fairly good at it. Almost better than writing my own music. I was better at writing music for other people. So the most important thing is to slow down and read the brief. Read it, understand it. If you have questions, you ask whoever sent it to you to make sure that you're understanding it correctly. And you're putting yourself, sometimes you'll get them with clear references. That's a whole other topic. And you just try to write something that you like, that you find, that you think is cool, that's something that's also like true to you, but follows the energy level and the emotions that they're asking for within the brief. Getting in the headspace of, if it's a movie cue, picture yourself, find out, as much as you can about the scene, put yourself in that moment. What type of music would you like to see in that scene? It takes a long time to develop, but that's my 2 cents in
That is
general.
so awesome.
And I can add to a couple things to that also.
Go ahead, Koichi.
I mean, briefs. I think Steph already mentioned this, and probably by association, Jason is probably in the same conversation. I mean, your briefs are only as good as the people who give them to you, and then the people who are going to take your music and then go do what needs to be done to try to win that brief.
Pew, pew, pew. Had to give you one back.
And I mean, and to be fair, I mean, briefs exist on the songwriting side too. If you're a songwriter and you're trying to pitch to an artist, and like someone who knows the barber of someone can easily cut me in line just because, boom, like they have that relationship built. And the same kind of things can happen even on the ad space. So as Jason mentioned, I mean, ask a lot of questions, do the research that you can. I will say personally, for me, anytime briefs have been involved, they are quick. So speed, is a skill set that can be developed. It's not necessary, but it definitely does not hurt to be able to turn things around quickly. And as far as are briefs the only way to get into the business? No. And some people hate working to brief. Like I definitely know people who are like, I won't do it, and I'm like, cool, that's fine. But like you said, it is a part of the business that you'll see a lot more. And I think once you get a chance to hopefully experience dealing with that, you'll also be able to decide, like, okay, is this the way I want to operate in this side of the business, or should I be looking for a way that maybe fits me more? And some people really are built for briefs. There are people that are tremendously talented. I'm sure Jason is one of them, and many others, Vo as well, and Daraj. And so it is its own kind of strange skill set. But yeah, I hope that based off, hopefully another success for you based off of this room will be you'll get a chance to do that. So best of luck.
That is awesome. Only thing I'll add to that is that, from my opinion, if you're writing for sync, and this is just from my perspective because this is how I came into sync, in a lot of ways, almost all sync writing is brief writing. The only difference is the time frame. So if you are preparing something because you're a member of like Taxi, or you look at, like, you got one of our resources, which is like the top 24 songwriting themes, and you're like, oh, people want songs about female empowerment. That's writing to brief. That's just a broad general brief with some references, like a playlist. And then there's no timeline on that particular brief. You're adding it to your catalog. So you can take a month, 3 months, 6 months to kind of work on that song. And so, but at the whole time, it's the intentionality of, I'm not just writing what I'm inspired to write. I'm finding my inspiration within the guidelines of somebody else's requirement. Somebody needs a song about female empowerment. Somebody needs a pop song about female empowerment. Somebody needs a song that sounds like Dua Lipa. And so the only difference between that and getting a call from a music house or a brand that asking for that more specifically is the turnaround. So being able to do that enough times where then you can do that not in 6 months or not in a month, but you can do that in a weekend. That's the difference. That makes it something you can do for a career. So I'll just add that. All right. Destiny. Wait.
Wait, sorry, Destiny. One more thing we should talk about briefs really quick because we've not touched on briefs a lot, and we are going to do a whole room on briefs for sure. Make sure that your ideas are wholly original. If you get a brief that says, like Eric said, we want Dua Lipa or we want this, never copy, never sound alike. Use those for inspiration and pull things like the tempo, or do they have male or female vocals, or does this song have a lot of dynamic change in it, or is it pretty chill? Are the drums, going nuts, or are they kind of laid back? Because those are the things that are going to help inspire you. But you never, ever, 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 I can't say enough evers, want to do a sound alike or just try to get close, to that thing. Come up with that inspiration and do something wholly original if you're working to brief.
Awesome. Very well said, and very important point. All right. We got 4 people. Destiny, you're up next.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for hosting this room. I love this room, and I come as much as I can. My question is really around career guidance. So right now, I'm a senior financial analyst at Under Armour, and I'm also a student in UCLA's program for music supervision. And honestly, like, I'm trying to get into the sync space. I'm trying to pivot out of finance and into the sync space. But I'm noticing that when I'm filling out applications, if I don't, it'll ask like, do you have entertainment industry experience? And since my answer is no, then I'm automatically rejected. But like my counter to that would be, I have transferable skills like tracking budgets and using Excel, being super comfortable with spreadsheets. I also am like a part-time music coordinator at my church. And so my question to like anybody on stage would be, have you seen people transition out of that finance and accounting role into the sync world? And if so, kind of like how, what are best practices?
I can take this one if no one has it. Absolutely. The answer is absolutely. And I would already hire you based on your pitch. Was Vo still here? Vo, kind of lit up the room and reminded everybody, like, give your best pitch, right? And you told me that you have, even though you haven't had the experience on your resume yet, you are going to school for it, and you have tangible transferable skills. And musicians and artists and creatives love people who love Excel and love numbers and love business, because they don't always love business. And even the ones that are good at it, myself included, I don't like it. I hire someone. And actually my director of operations was a music lover who had a little bit of a background in music, but never did professionally. But she was an accounting major and had all that experience. And she ended up, kind of having a love for both, but being, our director of ops. She handles all of our day-to-day bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. But she also handles plenty of stuff on the music supervision side internally for us in terms of tagging and metadata and registering all of our songs and keeping our publishing in line. She basically runs our publishing, entity. And then also does creative stuff when she wants to source it and find that stuff too. So the answer is unequivocally 1000% yes. And I will also say, DM me, because we're hiring people like that. And I also know a lot of other music supervisors who would love to get their hands on someone like you. So I'm happy, especially as a female, to, you being a female, to put you forward for those kind of gigs for sure.
Can I safely play this?
Yeah.
You are
Gotcha.
hired, Koichi. I'm
Let's
sorry,
go.
you're fired, Koichi.
I'm out.
Digital in the clutch, bro. That was so epic. I was not expecting that.
Neither was I. Where did Eric? You put her back in the audience, and I can't find her to follow her, and I can't find her.
Destiny, I'll pull up.
Fun fact: Mick Jagger was an accountant before he became a rock star.
I will. She's in the audience, Destiny, at the top, but I'm going to DM you her. I'll DM you her IG stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Can I jump in on that as well, real quick?
Yep, real quick.
All right, sorry. I just want to say, Destiny, those of you who've been in the room all night, you've seen me try to join this conversation and I keep breaking up. And the reason why is because I'm a real estate agent, and I was out showing the house just now and about to come home and haven't even had dinner yet. And I'm going to write an offer for a client. But I was also in the studio at 1 a.m. 2 nights ago and wrote a new song and just was able to post a success story about a sync I had in a film called Becky. So whether or not you're an accountant or not, or you're in corporate America and you're wondering, will people take you serious, or how do you merge your lives together? Like Steph said, like many other people have already said, the most important thing to do is just try to make good music. And if you make good, genuine music, you won't have to put that pressure on yourself of how to be two or three different people at once, or you won't feel the need to try to make all these parts of your life separate, which of course you can if you want to, but you just make music and you be a human and you be a person and you incorporate all these different parts of your life. That's what makes you a better artist. Like instead of trying to figure out how to hide it or how to compartmentalize it, you use the fact that you are a real person in this world working a job, trying to figure it out like everybody else, and you turn it into good music.
Awesome, man. And
I'm just
congrats.
jumping back in really quick, and I just wanted to add that Aloe Black, who, I mean, his music is so syncable. I think he worked, I don't want to say, I think he worked in finance. I'm not sure if it was Wall Street or not, but he was like a finance guy. And then, yeah, he's making all kinds of music.
That is awesome and a very good, awesome point. Um, cool. All right, let's move last two. Jason, how you doing?
I'm good. Sorry for the delay on that. Good to be here with you guys. So I had a question about as a deal. Actually, it was funny. Steph was talking about you guys pulling a 12-hour turnaround after the last week call. I was here with you guys for the first time. It was amazing, and we actually got a brief from my sync agency as well that we put our composers to work on. I was one of the contributors in addition to the other composers, and in 12 hours we had about 8 different pitches, and we were close to finalizing a deal. And it was actually it was a reference track that they used by the Chemical Brothers. It was a great song called "Go" with Q-Tip on the mic, and we actually are kind of close to getting the deal. And we know someone on the inside, and we found out that they offered the Chemical Brothers $200,000, this company, and they turned it down. And so my question for the group is, what do you think we should charge?
That's a good question.
Not $200,000.
Agreed.
Do you know the terms of the deal?
All I know so far, we're trying to get more information. I'm imagining it's a big rebrand for this company, and that it'll be a minimum of 6 months that they'll need. But from some conversations I've heard that around $30K with some expected revisions would be sort of on par for an expectation.
Yeah, it's hard to say
It's
without knowing the terms, like, the term itself plus territory, media, et cetera, et cetera.
So if we were saying national, if it ends up being that instead of just totally international, and it's a year, maybe you could go off that as a hypothetical.
50,000 aside, 100 grand total. I would pitch 100 grand for, you said for 6 months national.
6 months minimum. I imagine they probably would want to push it to a year if I'm not crazy for thinking that.
Yeah, a year for a year. Is it exclusive? Can you not pitch the music anywhere else?
So I haven't gotten the deal, so I don't know the language if it's exclusive or
Oh,
not. But I'm just trying
okay.
to find out as much information in advance, because I know that they offered that amount of money, which is, I know sometimes, most times you don't get that type of information. And I know that we're not the Chemical
Yeah.
Brothers and yada, 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 but, just trying to get a baseline.
Yeah, it would be tough to get 200 grand. I would start the negotiation at 100,000 for the year, which depending on depending on your relationship with that number may feel like an over evaluation. But for me, like I've gotten 6 figures for 4-month ads, so I think a whole year national is pretty fair for 100 grand. 50,000 aside, and if they want to negotiate you down from there, maybe you'll land on like 80 or 70. And again, I'm not telling you to go out and just destroy these people, you know what I mean, or just because you know their budget. I'm literally telling you, even if you didn't know the 200 grand for a year, I would say 100 grand total.
Wow. Okay, cool. And the only other fear to go into that is I don't want them to to now walk away because we're an unknown artist composing, to a brief versus the track that they were, trying to
and
go after.
once you have more information and the fact that they've given you, you said they mentioned 30 grand as sort of their budget.
No, we haven't had any back and forth about it yet. I'm just
Oh, what
trying
was
to
the 30
get into
grand
it
in
more.
reference to?
I have some friends that have worked in the ad side that, for Toyota, for example, they've kind of used 30 grand as sort of a baseline
Okay.
buyout.
Sorry, I thought that was coming from the client side. No, then yeah, get as much info as you can, and like Bo said, yeah, you could be up towards there, for sure.
I want to raise one point too that Jason actually raised to me offline, but he's being a wuss and not saying it out loud. So I'm going to say it to you, which is be really careful. This happens a lot, especially for advertising agents. If you work to brief, and like I said before, you were coming close to the song that they pitched, the Chemical Brothers had already turned it down, and their publishers are going to be aware that they turned it down, and they're going to be vigilant about knowing that any song that they replace, if it sounds too close to the Chemical Brothers, they will destroy you. So just I'm not saying it does, I'm just saying for the room, be super cognizant of that. As a matter of fact, when that happens, many times agencies will switch up their brief and say, we're going to go for a whole new pitch because they're already aware of it and we can't get close to this song like we wanted to. So just something to consider, not accusing you of it, just saying be super careful about that. And I would also say maybe check in the other way around. I just did this with a car company on Friday for Jizzle. I say to them, what's your budget? Ask them. And if they give you a ridiculously low number, like 10 grand or 20 grand, just, say, hey, this is, here are the terms. This is national or it's international or it's television, not just digital. Anything that you can to drive that number up, bring those points up respectfully, and then just say, hey, I'd love to get closer to, 50,000, right? I had an inside track. Someone told me this weekend, we wanted 150 grand for it. That's very normal for what she would get for a car company or something. I knew the people making the commercial, they said they really only have 50 for the digital part of it. And then they might expand to TV. So the other thing you can do is say, breaking it up into parts. And that's what we did with the car company. We said, if you don't have the budget now, go digital now and then relicense, for television or other expansions. Because sometimes they just go offer you an all-in package when they don't actually need that for their client. So you can find out if the numbers aren't meeting your standards, if you can get just digital first and then quote them for 3 months, 6 months, full year, television or whatever they need. So play around with the terms to get what you need. But I would always go to them first and see if you can get a number out of them versus and negotiate up versus pricing yourself out.
There was so many
Unless
gems
you
in
have
that
to.
stuff. There's so many gems in what you just said. Like, I just love that you shared that. And every time I talk to Steph about just like business execution or just deals and stuff, I come away with so much insight. So I appreciate you sharing
Although Vo makes me want to value my shit way higher.
that.
I want to go in high all the time now.
Yeah, I mean, at 100 grand, we're coming in 5,000 a month for, obviously you want to look at all the terms, but
Yeah,
if
totally.
they're doing digital, they're doing television. I mean, that's $5,000 a month.
All right, last question. Our homie Demetria. What's good, Demetria?
Is Leslie up here?
How are y'all doing?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have a question for you. And I do. I am also a stand-up comedian, and I'm not necessarily a clean stand-up comedian. I actually, I'm a stand-up comedian. I cuss and everything. I noticed Steph said, "Don't say anything that you can't say in church." That's all I do. So I'm wondering, do I need a nom de plume or something different for my music part, for the sync part?
No, I kind of meant in terms of your artist project, it depends upon the clients that you're going towards, right? And you guys have all heard me on here. How many times have you heard me be like, excuse my New York French? It happens and you have to be authentically who you are. I more mean, and they let me write kids music, by the way, so that's something to be said. I say fuck a lot on my Instagram. But I do think you have to be cognizant on your social media. And the stuff that I'm talking about is like, would I be embarrassed? Would I be embarrassed? I didn't say church because that's a really strong litmus test, but the New York Times. Would I be embarrassed to say fuck on the cover of New York Times? Hell no, I would say it, not a problem, right? So is it authentic to you and who you are? And is it okay being mass media? Because as you can see, cancel culture is strong. People are, really afraid of, and companies are really afraid of, what people are saying. So if you're really trying to get with a specific brand, maybe look at what their brand guidelines look like and think about that. For the most part, film and TV, not so much, but if you're talking about getting the advertising game or the children or TV animation game, I think it's more about common sense than anything else.
That is awesome. Awesome response. Sorry, I did not mean to overlook Lisay. Just you didn't show up at first until I refreshed, but I see you there. You there? Lisa?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey,
I'm
how are
here.
you?
My brain is on fire right now. With all of this incredible information. I think my question has been answered many times over. But again, thank you all for this wonderful room. I'm glad to be scrolling through and seeing films. I am a singer, songwriter, producer, vocal arranger, and I'm here because of course I would love to get songs placed in film. People hear my songs like your songs are perfect for film, TV, etc., etc., etc. I've heard, pretty much what you are saying. I guess I probably, so I think my questions have been answered. But let me ask this. Here's something. Vo, is Vo still on? Anyway, Vo, you blew my mind. I mean, you just woo. I mean, you all are incredible, but what he said, I guess about 10, 15 minutes ago, I mean, oh gosh, incredible. When is the book coming out for all of you all, actually? But okay, so it seems like music supervisors are the go-to people to submit music to. Now, I am a indie artist, and there are people on that side, record executives, producers, pretty much you could hand, I don't even want to say a demo anymore, but you could submit to pretty much anyone. Of course, is the A&R person, but I guess my question is, I know the target person is the music supervisor, but if there's a producer or director or a screenwriter or someone that you might know, or someone refers you to them and they're in that they're in that field, would they also be a good person to submit your songs to as well?
I see
I
you.
like to submit to anybody but go ahead, Vo, you answer.
No, anytime you talk, I just shut up because I know I'm gonna learn something.
No, right back at you. Go ahead. Take this
Are you
one.
sure?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, I'll just be quick. I would say, yeah, absolutely. And even if you know some editors as well as producers, that can also be a great way in, because what happens with specifically with like television shows is each week we have a what's called a spotting session where we all meet at the studio and we'll watch the episode and go through all the cues, all the music cues that are either done by the in-house composer and also cues that are temped in to be either replaced later or things that the music supervisor is trying to clear. And oftentimes the editor or the producer can suggest something for a cue and have it just kind of like rough cut in while we're sitting in that spotting session. And a lot of times that can influence what the music supervisor goes and looks for, or if they just say, yeah, I love that as is, a choice that the editor made. Why don't we just keep that in there? Can I get that cleared? So yeah, there's a few different ways to kind of get into it. I mean, obviously, that kind of relationship is typically somebody that you know personally, who is like really feeling your music. They know your catalog, and they're like, yeah, I'm actually editing a scene tonight that I could put your song in, you know, it more so happens like that than you like making that a part of your pitch strategy where you're pitching editors who are strangers your music. I would reserve that for sync agencies who would kind of help broker your stuff out, and also directly to music supervisors. But I guess the short answer of that is, yeah, there's other positions in the filmmaking process that you can also send your music to.
Bam, bam, bam.
Just
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just I mean, to Mo's point, I mean, the biggest sync I ever landed was an ad through an editor. So he's not wrong. I'd say the only thing is in the ad world, it's, you know, you can, a lot of the times, like a producer will then just turn it over to their legal and business affairs. And the supervisor at the agency may not even be aware that the track was, you know, found and licensed through essentially the editor. But I would just say be mindful, if you're in the film and TV space, of the music supervisors. You know, if you're friends with the producer of the show or the series or the film or the director, and they're liking some of the music you've got, and they're going to, you know, sort of get it in front of the right people, and they're going to kind of go top down to the supervisor. You still want to maintain and respect that relationship and the position of the supervisor, and not feel like you're, you know, trying to go around them intentionally. It's just that you just happen to have a pre-existing relationship with somebody that's involved with that production. So I always try and like to get looped in with the supervisor regardless and as soon as possible, so that they're a part of the process and they don't feel like I'm trying to go around them or anything. So just be mindful of that.
That's amazing advice, Mike. And what I was saying by I rarely go to the supervisor, it's not because I don't go to the supervisor, I go to their coordinators, because supervisors, like I've said many times, are incredibly overworked and incredibly underpaid. So we don't want to bug them if we don't have to. Mike's right. If you're going around them through producers or directors, I also do what Mike does. And I say, if I have a producer friend, I go, hey, please link me with your music supervisor. Even if they're like, we need to put this in, I'm like, great. Please put me with your music supervisor, because sometimes they don't like when their producers or other people, and I've been the producer too, are dictating music. They're not always thrilled about that either. So that could work for or against you. It's good to be really respectful of those, you know, relationships. But there are really incredibly busy music supervisors. There was a guy in here before. He said he was a trans rapper artist, and if he's still in the room, there are artists like Maggie Phillips, who is one of my favorite humans on earth. She's a good friend. I never call her when I need something or want to put something in her show. She has 2 people that work for her, or 3 people now, I think, that are her coordinators. You can find coordinators. I think finding music coordinators who work for supervisors are a really good thing that we don't talk about, instead of going direct to the supervisor, because I know Maggie's working 17-hour days and I don't want to bug her with those things. And even though she's invited me to, I know that I have a better opportunity getting into those shows through her coordinators, because they're, you know, making folders for her. So consider those avenues too.
Absolutely. I've been a coordinator for a supervisor. I couldn't second that enough. And if that trans artist is still in the room, please DM me. I'm actually submitting on a show. I do represent LGBTQ plus artists, but I'm submitting on a show that's looking for pop and hip hop. And I'm a little light on those genres, in particular with LGBTQ plus artists. So if they're still in the room, hit me up.
Almost every show is looking for diversity right now, and that's LGBTQ and female and BIPOC. That's why I thought of, you know, Maggie, they've got Generation, which is specifically looking for that as well. But again, I would actually strongly discourage that you try to go and look her up and try to pitch on that show like that. What I would do is find a guy like Mike, find other people who, you know, and we'll get into another room about this. There are publishers, there are there are coordinators, there are also sync reps. There are people like Jaden who, you know, can also take your songs out to other people, partners. You know, you can get in through other co-creators. Look for someone to partner with, you know, and I don't just mean creatively, that can also pitch your songs that you trust, you know, who might have those relationships for you and might always have an in. Mike just offered a really great one to someone in a room tonight. So consider that.
That's a great point about the coordinator and going in through that way. I mean, it's just brilliant.
This is so cool. This has been such an awesome discussion, and I appreciate everyone here. I see Dan. Did I miss a question, or did somebody just bring Dan to the stage?
I think he might have been on stage earlier and maybe popped out and popped back in. So I don't know if he still has a question or not. Dan, you there?
Yo.
Hey, how you doing?
Phone's a little. Yeah, I'm doing good. I don't have a question, but I thought I would just kind of first say thanks for this great room. A lot of great stuff. I was driving earlier, so I had to pop out. I have a company where we work with about 100 composers, so I'm just throwing this out there to the room, kind of blindly. But we do work as the publisher. We have a global distribution deal, so if there are people in the room who are interested, who specifically write in the criminal and investigatory kind of music space, we do have an open submission portal at crimesonics.com. And again, it's global distribution. We have, tens of thousands of placements at this point. So just throwing it out there, guys. Great room.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks for
I know people who do work in the criminal space, and I love how specific you are with that, and I know what an art form it is to write that genre of music. So thanks for sharing that. All right, this has been awesome. Like just the answers to the questions. One, I love that. I don't know if it's just the fact that we've been doing this since November and the community just has been growing, but I think almost all the questions were like intermediate and advanced enough. I don't think we had so few like novice questions, and people were asking real things about deals and building relationships. So I just appreciate that people, it seems like our community is growing. We're all growing together. We're all learning. We're coming back. We're taking in the knowledge and then coming back with more questions from that. So this has been great. We did go a little over, but it's been awesome. We are going to transition into the control camp after party, and looks like Rosie had to jump off. I was going to get her to come to the after party, but if you are not following Control Camp, click on the greenhouse above the title of the room, and that you can follow us. That'll get you access to the party where it's uncurated room, so we don't pull people up. If you're in there, we're not gonna send invites to come to the top. Just raise your hand. Anybody who wants to come up on stage can come up on stage. You just raise your hand and we pull everyone up, and it's much more of just kind of, hey, let's get to know each other. We don't really talk sync there, and so if you have questions that weren't answered, you can hit me or Daraj up in our DMs. Yeah, Daraj, what am I forgetting before we close out?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. Excited to get over to the after party. But just as a final word, if you came in late, you missed any part of the conversation, just got the tail end of it. You can get it over on controlcamp.com. We'll have it posted later. But yeah, just stay connected with us throughout the month. As we mentioned, we're highlighting women creators this month, and so we have some really cool rooms slated for our Wednesday rooms. And also, if you are looking to just grow in this space more and you have music that you just kind of want to get a second ear on, second opinion on, we do have our Saturday rooms at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time called the listening session. And it's just that you submit your songs, we're able to listen to it, and have a panel to give some feedback on it. So if you did want to submit your song and be considered for that, we do. Again, we do on Saturdays, and you can submit on our website, controlcamp.com. There's a submit music tab at the top right, and you just fill out the form and we'll get it and line it up for this week's queue. So that's it, man. Let's hit this after party.
Hit the after party. Oh, let's quick shout out to Steven. I don't think we heard from you today, so just want to say what's up. How are you doing?
Oh yeah, thanks. Amazing, great, and blessed everyone here.
Always good to see you, man. All right, we're moving over to the after party. Thanks so much, everybody on the stage. You guys are awesome as always, and appreciate you. So hope if you can hang, we'll come see you over there.
Thanks, Eric and Raj, Steph. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
There we go.
Digital, man. Send us the Cash App
Digital.
invoice, Digital. Whatever you charge, just send it to us.
Okay.
Send them an NFT.
There it is.